The jet had not been in the air for 1 hour when her mother-in-law slid 3 folded pages across the dinner table. Amy Smith Kang was 27, black, beautiful, the former overnight waitress at a small family-run diner. 2 years married into the Kang Korean Mafia family. She wore a pearl silk dress and a wedding ring that cost more than her old apartment. Her husband, Kang Minjai, was 30. They called him the Quiet One. A koi tattoo ran up the right side of his neck, only half visible above the collar of his Italian suit. He had kissed her forehead at the door. He had said, "I come back fast." She had whispered back, "Come back whole." Then his black and silver jet lifted off the mountain strip and disappeared into the snow. 8 o'clock, the long dining table, just the two of them. Kang Yoon-hee, 58, jet black bob, jade and gold bracelet clicking against her wine glass, laid the 3 folded pages on the white tablecloth and slid them across with 2 fingers. "I found these in my son's house. In my house, nothing stays hidden." The black and white maid uniform arrived later that night on a silver tray. Amy did not cry. Amy started counting. But what nobody in that mountain mansion knew was already on its way back through the clouds. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click join to become a member and help our channel. Amy slid the 3rd folded page into the back of the nightstand drawer and closed it with her palm flat, careful, the way you close something you don't want to wake. The drawer clicked. On the bed behind her, the suitcase was already packed. On the floor by the door, his polished black shoes waited like 2 soldiers. She straightened the pearl silk dress over her hips and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. Below the cliff, the private strip was already lit. The black and silver jet sat on the pavement with the Kang family crest, glowing faintly under the wing light. Snow was falling on the mountain in slow, even flakes. 4 men in dark coats moved around the aircraft. None of them looked up at the glass. Minjai came out of the bathroom, buttoning his cuff. The koi tattoo on the right side of his neck slid in and out of view under his collar as he turned. He saw her at the window and stopped walking. "You should be sleeping." "I wanted to see it leave," Amy said. He crossed the room. He smelled of soap and the cold cologne he wore on travel days. He stood behind her and rested his chin against her temple, eyes on the jet. 3 days, he said, maybe 4. You said 2 yesterday. Yesterday I was lying to myself. She let her shoulder lean into his chest. Inside the nightstand drawer, behind a row of folded handkerchiefs, the 3 pages were waiting for him to come home. She had practiced the sentence in the bathroom mirror until her own face stopped flinching. Tonight, in his arms, she would say it, not before he left. Before he left, he had to fly clean. He turned her around. He put both hands on the sides of her face the way he always did, thumbs under her cheekbones, and looked at her like he was memorizing something he had no time to read. "I come back fast. Come back whole," she whispered. He kissed her forehead. He held the kiss 1 second longer than usual. Then he stepped back, picked up the overcoat from the bed, and was at the door before she could feel the cold spot he left on her skin. "Minjai," he turned. "Whatever it is over there, finish it," she said. "I'm waiting." He gave her the small half-smile he gave no one else. Then the door closed. Amy stood alone in the bedroom for a long time. She heard the jet engines warm up below. The sound was deep, almost gentle, like a sleeping animal turning over. She watched the strip light flare brighter. The black and silver body began to roll. It lifted off the mountain and climbed into the snow until the lights folded into the clouds, and there was only gray. She put her hand flat against the glass. It was cold. She had time. He would call from Seoul before landing. She would tell him then. No, she would wait. She would wait until he was home, until he was in this bed, until his head was on her stomach the way he liked. Then she would slide the pages out of the drawer and put them on the pillow and let him read. A scent reached her before the footsteps did. Jasmine. Cool, expensive, unmistakable. Amy did not turn. In the reflection on the window, Yoon-hee was climbing the last steps of the marble staircase behind her. Black meaty dress, double strand of pearls, the jade and gold bracelet, ticking once against her wrist. As she moved into the doorway, the mother-in-law stopped in the threshold and watched the empty sky where the jet had been. He hates the cold, Yoon-hee said in the reflection. He never tells you, but he hates it. Amy turned now, he told me. The corner of Yoon-hee's mouth lifted half a centimeter. The eyes did not move. Of course he did, she said. Dinner is at 8. Just the two of us tonight. The cook is making the soup you said you liked last week. I'm not hungry. You will be. Yoon-hee left the doorway. The bracelet clicked once more in the hallway, and then nothing. Amy stayed at the window until the sky was the color of bone. The dining room at 8 was lit by low lamps and one tall arrangement of white jasmine in the center of the long table. 2 place settings, one at each end. The length of polished walnut between them was longer than Amy's first apartment. Mrs. Park stood against the wall in her black housekeeper uniform, hands folded, eyes on the floor. The other staff had been sent out. Yoon-hee sat already. She did not stand when Amy entered. Sit, dear. Amy sat. The soup was placed in front of her. It steamed. She did not lift the spoon. For a long minute the only sound was the small hiss of the radiator and the bracelet. That bracelet, clicking against the rim of Yoon-hee's wine glass. Then Yoon-hee set the glass down. She reached into the dark crocodile, clutch on the chair beside her, and took out 3 folded pages. She laid them on the white tablecloth, smoothed them flat with the side of her hand, and slid them toward Amy with 2 fingers. Amy's spoon was still in the air. The pages stopped halfway down the table. I found these, Yoon-hee said, in my son's house. Amy did not move. In my house, Yoon-hee continued, voice as soft as the jasmine, nothing stays hidden. Not from me, not ever. She lifted her wine glass again. She did not drink. Besides, she said, and now the smile reached only the mouth. No blood, no name, no tradition. Perhaps you also cannot give heirs. Somewhere above the Pacific, a private jet was climbing into clouds where no signal could reach. Amy looked down at her own hands resting flat on either side of the soup bowl. She had not known her hands could be that still. She looked up. Yoon-hee was waiting. Yoon-hee slid her phone across the white tablecloth. The screen was already lit. Minjai's contact card glowed under her wine-colored nail. 1 call, she said. Her voice was almost kind. And I destroy the image he has of you before his plane even lands. Amy did not touch the phone. She did not touch the exam pages either. 3 folded pieces of paper between 2 women in pearl silk dresses. And the only sound in the room was the soft click of the jade and gold bracelet on Yoon-hee's wrist. He loves me, Amy said. He loves the woman he thinks you are. Yoon-hee did not raise her voice. She never had to. A waitress from a roadside diner who cleaned coffee off vinyl booths until 2 in the morning. A girl with no name, no blood, no tradition. Now you cannot even give him a child. She tapped the exam pages with 1 polished finger. He is in a war tonight, Amy. Do you want him to hear this through static at 30,000 feet? A door opened somewhere behind Amy. Mrs. Park entered carrying a silver tray. On the tray was something folded, black and white, starched. Amy did not need to see it open to know what it was. Yoon-hee did not look at Mrs. Park. She looked at Amy. 18 years she has served this house, Yoon-hee said. She understands what a uniform means. You will understand also, Mrs. Park set the tray on the table beside the exam pages. Her hands were steady, her eyes were not. She did not look at Amy. She did not look at Yoon-hee. She looked at the silver edge of the tray as if reading something written there. I will not wear that, Amy said. Yoon-hee picked up the phone. Her thumb hovered. Amy thought of the jet climbing through cloud. She thought of Minjai's hand on her cheek before sunrise. She thought of the 3 folded pages, and the doctor's careful voice 2 days ago, saying we should look again. We should be sure. She thought of a man holding a phone in the cabin of a plane, while gunmen waited for him in another country. She stood. Her knees did not shake. They wanted to. "Don't call him," she said. Yoonhee's thumb stayed where it was. Amy reached for the tray. The uniform was heavier than it looked. Black wool. A starched apron that smelled of bleach. Thin black stockings folded inside the apron like a secret. Amy took the bundle in both hands and walked out of the dining room without looking back. The pearl silk dress whispered against her thighs. The marble was cold through her stilettos. Mrs. Park's eyes followed her to the door, and then dropped to the floor. In the guest wing, she undressed slowly. She hung the pearl silk dress on a wooden hanger as if it were borrowed. She unclipped the diamond studs and laid them in a porcelain dish. The wedding ring she did not touch. She put it to her lips once, then let her hand fall. The maid uniform fit. That was the cruelest part. Yoonhee had measured her without ever holding a tape. When Amy came back down the curved staircase, the staff was already gathered in the great room. 6 pairs of eyes lifted to her and dropped just as fast. The cook, the 2 groundsmen, the driver, Mrs. Park. A new girl Amy had never seen. Yoonhee stood at the bottom of the stairs with one hand on the banister. "From tonight," Yoonhee said, "Amy will help in the house. She is learning our ways." Nobody answered. Nobody had to. That was Tuesday. By Wednesday, Amy was carrying tea on a silver tray into the morning room, where she had hosted 3 lunches in 2 years. Yoonhee did not look up from her newspaper. "Don't stain the carpet, Amy. Weren't you a waitress?" The cup did not shake. Amy set it down on the lacquered table without a sound. She walked back to the kitchen, counting her own steps. 12 to the door, 9 across the hall, 16 to the pantry. She filed the numbers in her head like coins. By Thursday, the cook had stopped saying good morning. The new girl had stopped meeting her eyes. The driver passed her in the hallway and looked at the wall. Mrs. Park left a covered bowl of warm rice outside Amy's door at midnight. Amy heard the soft scrape of porcelain on marble through the wood. In the morning, the bowl was empty and washed and back on its shelf in the kitchen, as if it had never moved. At noon, Yoonhee passed Mrs. Park in the corridor and said, almost gently, "If I find rice outside that door again, you leave in the morning." Mrs. Park bowed her head. She did not stop leaving the rice. On the 3rd night, Amy sat on the edge of the guest bed, in the white cotton nightgown, and looked at her wedding ring. Yoonhee had not made her take it off. That was either mercy or a mistake. Amy decided it was a mistake. She stopped crying. She opened the nightstand drawer and found a small leather notebook with the Kang crest stamped on the cover. Guest stationery, untouched. She took the pen from the cup beside the lamp. She wrote the date. Then she wrote, Yoonhee checked her phone 14 times between breakfast and lunch. Each time her thumb moved to the same screen. She watches a contact she does not call. She wrote, "The driver looks at the wall when I pass. Mrs. Park does not. Mrs. Park is the only one whose fear is for me." She wrote, Yoonhee said no blood, no name, no tradition, before she ever saw the exam pages. She had the line ready. Amy underlined the last sentence twice. She closed the notebook. She slid it under the mattress where housekeeping never reached. She turned off the lamp. In the dark, she pressed her wedding ring against her mouth and did not weep. She listened. Down the long marble hall, far below in the foyer, the soft click of a jade and gold bracelet moved past her door and stopped. Then it moved on. 6,000 miles away, in a glass tower above a sleeping foreign city, Kang Minjai sat at the head of a long black conference table and felt the cold pass through him. His phone lay face up next to a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Amy's last 3 messages were on the screen. He had read them 4 times. The words were correct. The punctuation was correct. The little heart at the end of the second one was correct. None of it was hers. His wife wrote in fragments. Half thoughts. A word and then a thought she forgot to finish because she had already started, laughing at her own joke. These messages were complete, polished, spaced. The way someone writes when they are pretending to be calm. The way someone writes when another person is reading over their shoulder. He stared at the koi tattoo's faint shadow under his white collar in the reflection of the dark window. Outside, the foreign city blinked red and gold. Inside, his stomach turned to ice. He stood. The men around the table stood with him out of reflex. "Finish it tonight," he said quietly. "I am leaving in 4 hours." His second-in-command opened his mouth and closed it again. No one questioned the quiet one when his voice dropped that low. Phones lit up across the room. Cars were called. A pilot was woken. He did not tell his mother. He did not tell the household. He told no one in Korea at all. He boarded the black and silver jet with one overnight bag and his coat folded over his arm. As the wheels lifted off the foreign tarmac, he closed his eyes and saw Amy in the pearl silk dress the morning he left, lips moving against his ear. "Come back whole." He answered, "I come back fast." He understood, somewhere over the dark ocean, that he had answered the wrong question. Back inside the mountain mansion, the air had changed temperature. Yoon-hee felt it, the way a snake feels a footstep through the floor. She did not know her son was already in the sky, but she knew the leash she had wrapped around her daughter-in-law's neck was beginning to slacken. The girl had stopped crying. Worse, she had stopped flinching. That morning, Amy had set the silver tea tray down on the marble side table with steady hands and looked Yoon-hee straight in the eye for 1 full second before lowering her gaze. 1 second too long. So Yoon-hee tightened the rope. She walked into the kitchen at noon, jade and gold bracelet clicking, and stopped in front of Mrs. Park. The head housekeeper froze with her hands deep in a basin of rice. "No more trays at her door," Yoon-hee said softly. "No more covered plates. No more warm water bottles. If I find 1 grain of rice outside that guest room tonight, Soo-jin, you will be on the road before sunrise with 18 years of nothing in your pocket." Mrs. Park did not lift her face. She nodded once. Her hands kept moving through the rice as if nothing had happened. But a single tear fell into the white grains and disappeared. Then Yoon-hee walked to the dining room. She ran 1 perfect manicured finger across the polished marble floor under the long white-clothed table and held the finger up to the light. There was nothing on it. The floor had been cleaned that morning. She smiled with her mouth and not her eyes. "Amy," she called, voice sweet as bruised fruit. "Come here, dear." Amy came in the black and white maid uniform, blonde hair tied up in a low bun that had loosened across the day. The apron was still starched white. Her wedding ring still caught the light. Yoon-hee pointed at the marble. "Dusty. Get on your hands and knees and scrub it, all of it, tonight, before you sleep." Amy looked at the floor. The dining room marble stretched the length of 3 cars. "With what?" she said. Not a question. A flat sentence. Bucket, brush, cloth, soap. Yoon-hee's smile widened the smallest possible amount. "The way the women who built this house used to do it. You said you wanted to belong to this family. Belonging has a posture." She walked out. Her heels clicked all the way down the hall. Mrs. Park brought the bucket. She set it down at Amy's feet without a word and stood there a moment with her hand pressed to her mouth. Her eyes were red. She did not trust herself to speak. She gave Amy 1 small nod and left, because if she stayed, she would have screamed, and the screaming would have cost her the only job she had. Amy lowered herself to her knees. The marble was ice through the thin black stockings. She dipped the brush. She began at the corner under the head chair where Minjai used to sit. She worked outward. The water in the bucket turned gray. The brush scraped a rhythm into the silence. White aprons stained the color of old smoke. Strands of blonde hair fell loose from the bun and stuck to her honey-colored cheek. She did not push them back. She did not cry. She counted instead. 42 strokes for the first square of floor. 28 for the second. The way Yoonhee's voice rose at the end of the word belonging, the exact phrase. Belonging has a posture. She filed it. She filed all of it. Somewhere in the mansion, a grandfather clock struck 2 in the morning. Her knees were bleeding inside the black stockings. Her shoulders burned. The marble in front of her shone like a black mirror and showed her own face back at her. Blonde hair falling, wedding ring still catching the lamplight. She stopped. She sat back on her heels in the middle of the dining room. She had once hosted Christmas dinner in. She looked at the ring. Tomorrow night, she thought. When he calls, I tell him everything. Even if it breaks him in the middle of his war. Even if he has to fly home with blood still on his hands. He deserves the truth more than he deserves the peace of a lie. She did not know the jet was already over the ocean. She picked up the brush again and bent forward over the marble. Behind her, in the dark archway that led to the foyer, Mrs. Park stood with her hand pressed flat against the wall and watched her future mistress scrub the floor of her own house. And somewhere far above the black water, a man with red-rimmed eyes was counting down the hours until he would walk through his own front door without knocking. The black and silver jet touched the mountain strip an hour before dawn. Minjai walked out of it without an umbrella, without a phone call ahead, without the line of men who usually flanked him. His suit was wrinkled from 16 hours of altitude. The stubble of a day and a half darkened his jaw. The koi tattoo on the right side of his neck looked almost black against skin gone pale from no sleep. The mansion guards saw him and froze. He raised one finger to his lips. They did not announce him. He climbed the marble steps 2 at a time. The double doors of the foyer opened under his palm without a sound. He stopped. Porcelain clicked somewhere to his left. His mother's voice followed it, low, instructive. The voice she used with new servants she did not yet trust. Careful with the china. That set was my grandmother's. If it breaks, you will pay it off with extra work. Minjai turned the corner into the dining room. His wife was on her knees. A silver tray balanced on her open palms. A black knee-length dress under a white starched apron. Thin black stockings. Low black shoes. Her blonde hair was tied into a tired bun that had already started to come loose at the back of her neck. There was marble dust on the white apron. There were dark crescents under her eyes. Yoon-hee sat at the head of the long table with a teacup at her lips. She saw her son in the doorway, and her hand did not move. Only her eyes betrayed her, a half-second flicker of something close to fear, then iron. Minjai, my love, you were not supposed to. He did not look at her. He looked only at Amy. Why are you dressed like that? Amy did not answer. Her hands began to shake under the tray. The teacup slid. It hit the marble and shattered. Yoon-hee rose. Minjai, listen to me. Why? He said again. Is my wife on her knees in this house? Footsteps behind him, Mrs. Park stepped through the archway with her hands clenched into the pockets of her apron. She had been waiting in the corridor since she had heard the jet. She had been waiting for years, in some sense. She stopped 2 paces from Minjai and bowed her head. Sir, the mistress. Her voice cracked. She tried again. Mrs. Amy, I brought her rice 3 nights. She was forbidden to eat at the table. I was threatened with dismissal if I did it again. I am sorry. I should have called you. I was afraid. Minjai did not move for a long second. Then he walked past his mother as if she were furniture. He knelt on the marble in front of Amy, in his own wrinkled suit, in front of every servant who was now standing in the doorways of the dining room. He took the silver tray out of her hands and set it on the floor. He took her shaking fingers in his. How long? He said. 8 days. He closed his eyes. His phone buzzed in his coat pocket. He did not lift it. It buzzed a second time and a third. He reached for it because the rhythm was the lawyer's emergency code. A video call. The family lawyer in Seoul, glasses crooked, holding a document to the camera. Sir, I apologize for the hour. I was instructed by you 3 weeks ago to transfer the deed of the mountain, residence into the name of your wife as a wedding anniversary gift. Registered, notarized, witnessed. The transfer is complete. The mansion is legally hers. I thought you should know before whatever is happening this morning. The lawyer's eyes moved past Minjai and saw the kneeling woman in the apron. The lawyer went very quiet. The screens went dark. Minjai stood up. He turned and looked at his mother for the first time. You humiliated her, he said. Inside her own house. The phone buzzed again. A different sound. An unknown number. A single line of text. He read it twice. Your mother did not find the exam pages in his stand. She had them made. He did not show the screen to Amy. He slid the phone back into his coat. His jaw set into something Amy had never seen on him before. Not anger, something colder, something patient. He walked to the long table and pressed the brass servant bell 3 times. The entire household began to gather in the dining room, drifting in from the kitchens, from the corridors, from the upstairs landings, white aprons and dark suits arranging themselves along the walls. He took Amy's hand and pulled her gently to her feet beside him. This woman, he said to the room, is not a servant in this house. She is the owner of this house. Anyone who obeyed an order to humiliate her leaves before sunrise. Anyone who tried to help her, his eyes found misses. Park, stays, and is rewarded. No one spoke. Half the staff lowered their heads. 3 began, very quietly, to cry. Yoonhee took 1 step forward. Minjai, he finally turned to her. He did not raise his voice, he never did. You are my mother, she is my wife. You forgot the difference between love and ownership. Outside, the gray was beginning to lift behind the mountain. Yoonhee walked out into it alone, the click of her heels on the marble the only sound she left behind. At the door she stopped without turning around. This is not over, she said, almost to herself. Then she was gone. Upstairs, Minjai untied the white apron from Amy's waist with his own hands. He folded it once. He set it on a chair. He wrapped her into a pearl silk robe and sat her on the edge of the bed and knelt on the carpet in front of her. He pressed his forehead against her belly. With children, he said, or without children, with treatment or with adoption, with a miracle or with none of it. My family begins in you. 3 days later, her phone rang from a number she knew. The hospital. Her previous tests, the woman on the line said carefully, appeared to have been read incompletely. They wanted her to come in and repeat them. Across the room, Minjai's phone lit up with the same anonymous number from the dining room. He took her hand. He did not let go. Now, he said, the war is not the Mafia's, it is ours. On the table between them, the unopened white envelope from the hospital caught the early sun. If you want to watch all the stories without any ads and also get access to bonus scenes, extended epilogues, and exclusive spicy chapters, head over to our Patreon. Scan the QR code on the screen. The link is in the description or in the pinned comment. See you there. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever worn a uniform inside a house that was legally yours because you loved the man flying home too much to wound him with the truth on the phone? Have you ever stopped crying and started counting the silences, the small cruelties, the exact words spoken by someone who thought you were furniture? And when the door finally opened, did the person who loved you see you first, or see the apron? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about dignity, loyalty, and a wife reclaiming her own house, leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.